Hi everyone, and welcome to Truth Over News. If you still harbor any doubts that corporate media works on behalf of the intelligence community, those doubts should be put to bed by the latest stories surrounding the leaks from the Pentagon. By now, everyone has heard the story of the young, low-level National Guardsman who was recently arrested for leaking classified government documents online. Among other things, those documents prove that the Biden regime has been lying about Ukraine's supposed success in its war with Russia. But that's not what makes this story so incredible. The real story is how corporate media did the footwork leading to the whistleblower's arrest, or created the appearance of doing the footwork. As you might imagine, we have a lot of questions. One thing that's notable about the documents leaked by the whistleblower is that although they're classified, they're not very surprising. Despite the government's claims, they don't appear to contain information that causes great damage to our national security or couldn't have been seen by the American public. The information seen thus far includes details about Ukrainian military capability, along with intelligence regarding a variety of nations, including Israel and South Korea. Perhaps the most newsworthy information relates to military death tolls in Ukraine's war with Russia. As has been long suspected, the documents show that Ukraine's losses outpace Russia's at a 4-to-1 ratio, with more than 71,000 Ukrainian troops killed in action. In other words, the documents prove that the Biden regime has been lying about Ukraine's success in its war with Russia, even as Biden seeks ever more money for Ukraine. The leaked documents, which appear to have included briefings prepared for senior Pentagon leadership, including General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, contained assessments from a multitude of agencies. But rather than focusing on the content of the damning documents themselves, the media chose to focus on finding the identity of the person who leaked them. This is truly astounding and a sad statement on the state of our so-called media. As my co-host Hans has noted, can you imagine Woodward and Bernstein spending their time writing about Deep Throat instead of Nixon? Because that's what this is. Hans is completely right. As we shall see, this story exposes the complicity of our nation's media with our nation's intelligence community. Although the timing of events is not yet entirely clear, it appears that a young National Guardsman named Jack Teixeira began uploading classified documents on Discord, an online platform popular with gamers sometime in the winter of last year. Then, on February 28th, some of those classified documents began to appear on another Discord server. From there, the documents began to spread. On March 4th, 10 documents appeared on Minecraft Earthmap, a Discord server focused on the video game. Then, on April 5th, classified documents were posted on Russia Telegram channels and the message board platform 4chan. The very next day, on April 6th, the New York Times published an article titled, "Ukraine War Plans Leak Prompts Pentagon Investigation." According to the Times report, military analysts claimed that the documents had been modified, overstating American estimates of Ukrainian war dead and understating estimates of Russian troops killed. The Times suggested that Russia was responsible for the leak, but was not definitive about it. The next day, Reuters published a story claiming that Russia was indeed behind the leak, according to unnamed U.S. officials. As it turns out, both of these early narratives were completely false. On the same day of the New York Times story, Eric Toller, director of research at Bellingcat, a Netherlands-based open-source investigative journalism outfit that is loosely affiliated with the CIA and MI6, began tweeting about the documents that had been leaked. Toller was looking for the original source of the documents. Just a few short hours later, Toller had miraculously found his source. On April 9th, 2 days after the New York Times story, Toller published an article in Bellingcat titled, "From Discord to 4chan, The Improbable Journey of a U.S. Intelligence Leak." Toller went so far as to speak with members of a separate Discord community who told him that the classified documents had been first posted on a now deleted server called Thug Shaker Central. One of the people speaking with Toller told him that they knew the identity of the person who was responsible for the original posting of the classified documents. The hunt was on. Toller also reached out to the Department of Defense and was told that they were actively reviewing the matter and had made a formal referral to the Department of Justice for investigation. On April 12th, the Washington Post officially entered the hunt for the whistleblower. In an article titled "Discord Member Details How Documents Leaked from Closed Chat Group," the Washington Post provided a trail of breadcrumbs for the FBI, which would lead to the identification of the whistleblower. What's so astonishing about the article is that it focused almost exclusively on the whistleblower and his community, and spent no time at all discussing what was in the leaks themselves. This fact cannot be overstated enough. Rather than report on the information contained within the leaks, the Washington Post focused solely on providing information that could lead to the identification of the whistleblower, whom the Post described as a charismatic gun enthusiast who led a group united by a mutual love of guns, military gear, and God. The official narrative was already being established. Not to be outdone, the very next day, the New York Times published an article entitled, "Here's What We Know About the Leader of the Online Group Where Secret Documents Were Leaked." Bellingcat's Toller was listed as the lead author of the article, despite not being employed by the New York Times. And rather than being satisfied with simply providing very direct clues like the Washington Post did, the New York Times moved in for the kill, naming the young National Guardsman as Jack Teixeira. The Times also continued the official narrative established by the Washington Post, referring to Teixeira's online group as being composed of young men who came together over a shared love of guns, racist online memes, and video games. Later that same day, the Times published an article detailing the arrest of Teixeira. They could scarcely contain their glee, noting that as reporters from the New York Times gathered near the house on Thursday afternoon, about a half dozen FBI agents pushed into the home of Airman Teixeira. The Times also continued to push the officially established narrative, noting that, according to people who knew him online, Airman Teixeira was no whistleblower. Providing no evidence whatsoever, the Times claimed that, unlike previous leaks of information, outrage about wrongdoing or government policies does not appear to have been a factor. As we noted earlier, we have a lot of questions. For one thing, it seems highly unusual that the New York Times not only outed Teixeira's identity, but were literally waiting for the FBI to show up at Teixeira's house. And how is it that senior defense officials were not even aware of the leak until April 6th? And why were those leaks initially ascribed, without any evidence, to Russia? These defense officials are either utterly incompetent or they're lying, or both. We do know that on the same day that Defense Secretary Austin was briefed, Twitter Daily News reported that the Pentagon is trying to get Twitter to remove posts that contain classified documents about the war in Ukraine. To which Elon Musk replied, "Yeah, you can totally delete things from the internet. That works perfectly and doesn't draw attention to whatever you were trying to hide at all."